Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with the Bureau of Land Management. My name is Matt Wade, and I'm the Executive Director at the AMGA. AMGA Senior Policy Advisor Jason Keith is also here today, and we have two special guests joining us from the Bureau of Land Management. Kevin Oliver, Division Chief for Recreation and Visitor Services, and Josh Travers, National Program Lead for the BLM Special Recreation Permit Program. I will hand it over to Kevin and Josh to introduce themselves in just a moment. But before I do, I want to express much appreciation and gratitude to Kevin and Josh and their entire team for the work that they've been doing over the last year to implement the Explore Act across the BLM's Special Recreation Permit system. They have put forward really a tremendous effort to update their permit system to account for the changes required by the Explore Act, including new permit types, revised fee calculation methods, and new streamlining measures to help the permitting process go faster for both guides and BLM permit administrators. So thank you so much to Kevin and Josh for all of the work that you've been doing. Today, Kevin and Josh will be providing about a 30-minute overview of the new permitting system at the BLM, and they'll be answering questions that you have. As questions come up, you're welcome to submit those using the Q&A function. It'll be easier for Kevin and Josh to answer the questions at the end of the presentation. However, if you do have a question that's urgent, you're welcome to flag it, and we'll do our best to address it right away. Otherwise, we'll plan to answer the Q&A questions at the end, and we can also unmute for some open dialogue as well, if that's helpful. Lastly, I want to remind everyone that this new system is a major overhaul of BLM's permitting process and is still a work in progress. So please be patient with your permit administrators who are still actively learning the new system as we are. Okay, with that, I will hand it over to Kevin.
Thank you, Matt, and it's our honor to be here for sure. Yeah, as you said, my name is Kevin Oliver. I'm with BLM Headquarters, Division Chief for Recreation and Visitor Services, and I also have the distinct honor of leading the BLM's Headquarters core team for Explore Act implementation. I heard a little feedback. Is the audio going good there, Matt?
Okay, Kevin.
Okay, I'll just keep going, but let me know if I have an audio thing I need to take care of. So again, in leading that Explore Act core team for headquarters, it's essentially an all of BLM team. We recognize that there's so much in Explore Act that needs contracting support, grants and agreements, youth. When we think there's climbing components, there's contracting, and so there's all these different things. So we made sure that everybody at headquarters knows their role, knows exactly who's in charge of which section to make sure we're advancing in an effective manner. So about a year ago, when the Explore Act, when we started cracking open the Explore Act in January and February, we certainly took a look at Title III, and we checked in with our leaders, and we developed a game plan to make sure that we were going to get this on the ground as fast as we possibly could, but do it effectively in a way that advance these things that Explore Act gives you, the better customer service, the choice in permitting, the transparency. And so really just a little aside is a big congratulations to American Mountain Guides and other Explore Act crafters. I say there's a lot of gold nuggets in the Explore Act because every section has got something that I think is well thought out and does some important things for the American public, enhancing access to public lands and helping the public get out there and really have healthy activities, which we need to promote more of. So, and with that, I think the big connection for me personally and from our team to you all is the value you provide to the American public. The administration and our recreation team, we recognize that so many Americans they don't have room for all the equipment they need to go enjoy the out of doors, and maybe they don't get to do it as frequently. And they really benefit from the expertise that outfitters and guides provide. And so this is a really big deal in that the Explore Act helps you all have a sound and consistent business model so you can thrive and the American public can have that access. So again, I'm going to turn it over to our expert in Title III, Explore Act. Happy to take any questions on Explore Act, but we want to focus on your interest here with Title III. So with that, Josh has a presentation and we'll be working through questions, either answering them as they come up or holding them to the end, depending upon the complexity and how they align. So thank you very much and looking forward to the rest of this visit.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So I'm Josh Travers, and as Kevin shared, and introduced by Matt, I serve as the national lead for BLM's Special Recreation Permit Program. I'm located in Grand Junction, Colorado, at BLM's Western headquarters office. It's not a bad place to be. Uh, Real quickly, I want to acknowledge, similar to Kevin, how many of you operate on BLM managed lands through special recreation permits, whether you're providing guided climbing, mountaineering, or other instructional experiences that connect people to some of the most remarkable landscapes that we manage. And I just want to share appreciation for the work that you do, and also share that the work you do is an essential part of how the public experiences public lands. And again, just I can't say enough how appreciative we are of the relationship that we have with this community. And and just want to finish saying thank you for the diversity of experiences that you all provide. And super excited to be here today, spending time with all of you and sharing how BLM is implementing Title III and what changes you may see related to special recreation permits. And with that, Matt, if you're ready for me to dive right into the presentation, I can do that.
Yep, that sounds good, Josh. Let's go ahead and get started. And for that, I'll go ahead and spotlight you so that you are highlighted as the presenter.
Great, thank you. So I first, I have a handful of slides that I want to go through. And again, I'm going to share a quick overview of how BLM is implementing Title III. And I can't share enough how excited we are to be at the stage where we get to share this publicly and be able to fully support the implementation of special recreation permits related to Title III. And so I just wanted to quickly run through how Title III relates to BLM special recreation permits. And so I want to start by saying Title III represents the most significant structural modernization of special recreation permits that we've seen in decades. And this is not just a policy change, it's a statutory restructuring of how recreation permits are defined, administered, and managed. And it applies to more than 5,000 active permits across the Bureau. And you know, where it applies is it improves consistency, not just across the BLM offices, but also begins to align much more closely with the Forest Service, and in some cases, even includes the National Park Service. And so offering more alignment across agencies. And most importantly, Title III introduces operational flexibilities and streamlined processes designed to better reflect how recreation businesses operate on the landscape. And so at its core, Title III is about creating a permitting system that works better for all of you, you know, outfitters, guides, and also for the agencies, but also importantly for the public as well. And so again, just we're really excited to be at this stage where we're at and implementing Title III. One of the biggest changes in the foundation of Title III is the new permit framework, where historically permits were largely defined using broad commercial and organized group categories, which did not always reflect the true operational realities of recreation providers. And so BLM's implementation of Title III replaces that structure with the four permit categories that you see on the screen, as well as 10 permit types that align more with activity structure, size, scale, and frequency. And so the new permit types provide clear distinctions between different recreation operations. And it ensures that permit requirements align with actual operational scale and impact. And importantly, this framework provides the foundation for for establishing streamlining tools and operational flexibilities that I'll discuss next. One of the central goals and intent of Title III is to streamline permit administration while maintaining full environmental compliance and resource protection. And historically, even routine or well understood activities often required repetitive administrative review, even when impacts had already been analyzed and authorized. And so Title III provides clear direction for the BLM to rely on existing analysis whenever applicable, and to expand the use of categorical exclusions for activities with minimal and predictable impacts. And as we implement Title III, field offices are actively working through this transition and adapting permit administration to align with these statutory improvements. They're building these tools and working in a fast-track way to have the tools to support streamlining whenever we can apply that. And just a quick success story, I meet weekly with the field, and I'm already hearing stories of where they're transitioning to using tools that Title III has provided, and through our implementation, BLM has provided them to start streamlining permits. So it's already starting to happen out in the field. I'm just super excited to hear that that's occurring. Moving to nominal effects determination, which is one of the most important streamlining tools introduced under Title III, and that's a nominal effects determination. This is a structured evaluation that allows BLM to determine whether a proposed activity has minimal and predictable impacts on public lands and resources. And this applies primarily to organized group activities, events, and certain outfitted uses, particularly those that are small in scale and occur in areas already open to public participation or to public recreation. And for an activity to qualify, a nominal effects criteria has to be met, which is outlined on this slide. And when that criteria is met, BLM may likely be positioned to streamline the authorization process. And then in certain situations, particularly for low impact organized group uses, it may allow a nominal effects determination, may allow the activity to occur without requiring a permit when a proposed activity or event meets the nominal effects determination criteria and does not require terms and conditions. And aligned with streamlining, I want to highlight a recent development that will support streamlined permitting, especially for those routine low impact uses that I've been talking about. And so while Title III does not create new categorical exclusions, it strongly emphasizes using categorical exclusions whenever they're appropriate to reduce unnecessary analysis. And so to support that intent, BLM has recently adopted 5 new recreation-related categorical exclusions. We already had one, so now we have a toolbox of a total of 6 that I'm sharing here, and these categorical exclusions um, are new tools that offices can use to cover activities like short-term recreation uses, uses on established sites and trails, reissuing existing reissuing authorizations where nothing is changing, and small acreage permitted uses. So these new category exclusions won't apply in every circumstance, particularly in, in areas with sensitivities or perhaps special designations, but they give our field offices more options to streamline common decisions. And so, most importantly, permit holders should coordinate with local field offices for specifics, and for these to apply, it depends on local resource conditions, existing NEPA, and the nature of each proposed activity. But field offices know and understand that these are tools in the toolbox to further support our processing. And then Title III introduced visitor use days, where visitor use days, it introduced it as a tracking method specifically for low impact permits and those recurring long-term activities with allocated use. And BLM has adopted visitor use day as our primary mechanism for tracking all permitted use. So in a general sense, BLM is using visitor use day management, the system, for consistency to track all visitation through permitted use. But an important improvement under Title III is where allocated use is being managed, and it provides the ability for the voluntary surrender of visitor use days. And so if a permit holder cannot use all of their allocated days in a given season, you may voluntarily surrender those unused days for that season. And then those surrender days may be temporarily reassigned to another permit holder or perhaps a new permit, which improves efficiency and the potential for allowing other operators to utilize available capacity. And so what's important is surrendering does not automatically penalize a permit holder. BLM now has a structured direction on how surrendered or unused days are treated during allocation reviews.
Hey Josh, could you say a few words about how this only applies to areas where BLM has established allocated use?
Yeah, so visitor use day management, we're using it as a tracking method for consistency. We're using visitor use days to track all participation for all permits, but the surrendering and in my reference to the review of visitor use days only applies where we've allocated use or applied caps or a threshold for participation in a specific area where we've allocated a total number of participants that can recreate in an area over a specific time frame.
Many of our permitting areas don't have those caps, right?
Yeah, we have a handful. The majority of our permits don't have allocated use, but there are a number of permits that have allocations assigned to them.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. And so where those allocations exist and where where surrendering can happen, BLM will assess those long-term permits. So these are 10-year permits. At 5 years, we'll do an allocation review. And what's important to understand about that is the review. If the reviews evaluate actual use and operational performance over that period, over the 5-year period of use. And if performance has been satisfactory, Title III directs that future allocations be set up to 125% of the highest annual use during the review period. So if, over a 5-year period, if on year 3 you had your highest use did not meet your threshold, BLM will look at that highest use year and apply 125% of the highest annual use during that review period, but we won't exceed the original allocation ceiling. And then conversely, if performance has been unsatisfactory, allocations may be reduced to 100% or less of the highest annual use. And what the system is doing is it's ensuring allocations reflect actual operational use and ensures fair and efficient allocation management across operators. And so it's developed. We have a system that consistently evaluates how allocations are being managed, and then where we need to make adjustments, we make adjustments in a very fair and consistent way. And so, to wrap up the last 2 slides, between the ability to surrender visitor use days and 5-year allocations, this system creates a structured, transparent, and predictable allocation management framework that benefits both permit holders and resource management. And so I wanted to transition to Raptor. And if you're not familiar with Raptor, Raptor is our recreation and permitting tracking online reporting system. In short, it's our digital database and permit application and an administration system that we manage as an electronic system. And under Explore Act, Raptor is the primary system used to process and manage special recreation permits bureau-wide. And what that means is submitting applications and managing permits through Raptor is essential. Raptor allows BLM to provide the most amount of consistency in our implementation of Title III. And it's crucial that folks are using Raptor when applying for special recreation permits. And it's been built to allow you to have a place where it's a single source system where you have access to your complete permitting file. And then utilizing Raptor, it ensures consistency across all BLM offices. And that's regardless of where you operate. Raptor helps ensure that permit determinations, fee calculations, permit administration are all applied uniformly and transparently. And so Raptor applications, they need to be submitted electronically, which reduces paperwork and provides visibility into application status and permit records. And with some of the requirements of Title III and giving us some timelines that we need to stay consistent with when processing a permit, Raptor provides complete transparency for when you should, giving you information of when you should expect to receive a permit. And then Raptor also supports many of the new flexibilities introduced under Title III, which includes the ability to elect applicable fee calculation methods, such as giving you the flexibility to elect between a fixed fee or a fee calculation method based on adjusted gross receipts. You get that choice. And just to go into that a little bit, uh, for service providers who provide or who pay fees in advance of starting your use period, um, you should expect to coordinate with your permit administrator prior to the use period, where you will be given the ability to say, you know, based on what I know at the beginning of my season, I want to elect um, either a fixed fee or an adjusted gross receipts fee as my intended fee calculation. Um, and then advance payments will be based on that estimated use. And then at the time of post-use reporting, whether that's mid-season or at the end of your season, you submit all of your post-use reporting. Raptor automatically calculates those fees for you, where you get full transparency on what the fee calculations look like based on a fixed fee calculation model or an adjusted gross receipts model, and you get to elect again based on what those calculations look like. So offering full flexibility in your ability to elect which fee calculation method is your preference. And then Raptor also ensures accurate tracking and documentation for you and the BLM. It helps support long-term permit administration, renewals, and compliance. And then most importantly, Raptor is designed to support all of you. It improves predictability, transparency, communication, especially communication between you and your permit administrator, um, but also with the BLM as a whole. And we strongly encourage, I know I've said this several times, but we strongly encourage you all to use Raptor because it is going to ensure that BLM is successful in our implementation of Title III. And then the last thing I want to say about Raptor is is continuously being updated, where you know the Title III is so substantial and so many changes occurred that Raptor fully recognizes Title III and is only issuing Title III permits since February 2nd. But there's a lot of improvements going into Raptor that will continue over the course of this year. And so you'll see Raptor continuing to improve, automate processes, and further support the implementation of Title III. And I just want to share that your feedback is critical to our success in using Raptor. And Raptor provides a space where you can provide feedback. So if you have recommendations, suggestions for how we can make Raptor better work for you, please share that with us. We take that feedback very seriously and prioritize our development needs based on the feedback that we receive. And you know, in chatting with Matt and Jason, they both shared that if you share with them, you know, how we can further improve Raptor, they'd be happy to share that with us as well.
And Josh, if I could pop in a little bit, you know, Josh mentioned please use Raptor, and I think what I'd like to clarify is, you know, we're legally required to process a paper permit, and I think you could see, given the complexity of Explore Act, this thing is dialed to deliver you Explore Act Title III permits. But a human being in paper and emails is not going to do as good a job. I promise you that. The automatic fee calculations alone, so you can see what your 3%, you know, is going to look like under either scenario versus your per day fee. You know, all the forms that are transparent and uploaded, and the communication tools that are in there. If you haven't used Raptor yet, jump over the fence. I think you're gonna come to appreciate it. It's like any system, you know, that you're probably your first entry in there is, you know, going to be some assimilation. But you know, I've pulse checked a lot of outfitters and guides at various conferences over the past 2 years, and I'm getting generally good feedback. I'm getting people say they like it. A few people said they love it. haven't had anybody tell me that they won't use it and they can't use it. So do give it a jump and do go in that direction. And we expect all our BLM offices to be conveying that please use Raptor. We think it's the best for both sides of the equation here. So that's our desired intent. But anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. And I'll share one more thing about Raptor is one of our highest priorities when Raptor implemented Title III, or when we implemented Title III through Raptor. One of the highest priorities that we had right out of the gate was ensuring Raptor supports the intent of streamlining, and especially where we're making nominal effect determinations. And so Raptor recognizes where there's a permit type that may qualify for a nominal effects determination, requires that determination is done, and BLM is as we work through that, we can very quickly and easily make a determination if a permit is required or not required. So just one more reason of why Raptor is such a critical tool in using. Um, and then I wanted to jump over to the liability framework introduced in Title III, where Title III still places insurance requirements as risk-based, or our implementation of Title III still considers insurance requirements on a risk-based determination. And so what that means is the level of insurance required must be commensurate with the operational risk of the activity. And one significant clarification from Title III is that activities that have been determined to be low risk do not require proof, providing BLM proof of your insurance, and additionally does not require adding the United States of America as additionally insured. And so pretty big change from a liability standpoint. And that determination is made using a standardized risk matrix that we've provided to all offices. And so those determinations are made in a very consistent way using a required risk determination form. So the same form used across all offices in making a risk-based determination. And then I also want to call out where Title III formally recognizes participant waivers, release agreements, youth waivers, all of the waivers that you use, any exculpatory agreement as part of the liability framework. And BLM, you should expect that your permitted administrator will ask for a copy of all the waivers that you provide to your participants so that we have a copy of those waivers in the file. And the waivers must include release of United States of America liability language as well. And so just to clarify, the copy is not per participant signed. We just need a copy of the waivers that you're utilizing to have in our permit file. And then I just want to highlight a few transitional notes for moving to Title III. And one of the most important things to emphasize is that Title III does not invalidate or disrupt your existing permit. If you currently hold a valid special recreation permit that was issued prior to February 2nd, that permit remains fully valid and enforceable under its existing terms and conditions. And so you may continue operating exactly as you've been authorized. Nothing changes under that authorization. And then conversions to the Title III permit structure will occur over time. And it occurs naturally as permits are renewed, reissued, or administratively updated. And offices are, each BLM office is coming up with a plan to get all permits converted to Title III permits, but they've been given a timeline of September 30th, 2029. And so it's going to happen over time gradually. Um, However, permit holders may request, so you may contact your local office and request early conversion. And that's, if you wish to transition sooner than that September 30th date, or when your office determines that all of the permits will be converted to Title III, um, you can request to have your permit converted sooner. You just need to work with your local office. They're developing plans um, to address any requests that they get, and come up with a list of priorities and how they're going to do that. And we'll be sharing that with you when you have those conversations with your local office. The key takeaway: your existing permit, if it was issued prior to the February 2nd date, will remain valid, and operations will be uninterrupted. And then for any permit that we issue after February 2nd, it is full aligned with Title III. And so I want to close by just discussing our implementation, engagement, and what you can expect moving forward. And so we've developed comprehensive interim Title III implementation guidance. And we deployed that to the field on January 15th, 2026. And that was just prior to our, as I mentioned, the February 2nd launch date, where we went live with Title III. And this guidance that we issued to the field now governs how Title III permits are administered across the Bureau. And so field offices are actively learning and applying this new framework, and are developing transition plans to move existing permits into the Title III structure over time, as I shared in the last slide. And with any significant statutory modernization, there's a learning curve, not just for all of you, as Matt shared, but also for the agency. And so the field is learning very quickly, and has a lot of support from myself and others in fast tracking their ability to adapt to this substantial change. But with that, and Matt also shared this, we strongly encourage permit holders to work directly with your local offices, and just have some patience as you approach them, because they are learning Title III. And again, this is where Raptor plays a really important role. As offices are learning, Raptor requires that they consider Title III implementation requirements. And so again, Raptor ensures consistent implementation of Title III. And then from a policy standpoint, I just want to share the interim Title III guidance supersedes the existing special recreation permit handbook where Title III provisions apply. And that the handbook remains in effect for policy areas not directly impacted by Title III. And so what that means, where we have our handbook, which is shared publicly, you guys all have access to it, it still exists. And then we have the Title III guidance that where it applies, it supersedes the handbook. And so we're currently working on both of those policy documents. And the Title III implementation guidance has been routed through our system, where we're preparing to share that publicly. So both of those documents will be shared publicly, and we expect in the coming weeks that will become available and shared to their website. And then last, I want to highlight that we're now moving to our second phase of implementation of this, and that's the formal rulemaking process to fully implement Title III through regulation, and this will ultimately result in updated regulations and a revised handbook, so that we have a single resource that we're using internally and sharing externally that brings all of Title III implementation into a single source. And so that's the next phase that we want to provide for all of you. And our goal of the implementation throughout this process is to implement Title III in a way that is structured, transparent, and supportive of all of you, of all recreation service providers. So I just want to close again, sharing that we recognize that outfitter and guides play an essential role, a crucial role in providing safe, professional access to public lands. And our goal in implementing Title III is to create a permit system that's more transparent, more efficient, and better positioned to support the responsible stewardship and the continued growth of the recreation economy. And we're committed to implementing this framework in a collaborative way, and really appreciate the partnership that all of you continue to maintain with the BLM. And we greatly appreciate the work that you do, and we look forward to working with you and collaborating in our partnership in a successful implementation of Title III. So with that, I think Kevin and I will, and through Matt, we'll transition to questions and conversation.
That sounds great, Josh. Thank you so much for the overview. So much information there, and all very helpful. If folks have questions, feel free to add those to the Q&A, and we can start to work through any questions you have. And Josh, I think right off the top here, I think we have one question for you regarding the voluntary surrender of visitor use days. And the question is, how are permit holders encouraged to do that? If they have unused days, what incentivizes them to return those days?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and the incentive for surrendering visitor use days is how they get applied in the 5-year evaluation, and so yeah, unless there's more questions that want to dig into the details of this. So what happens at the time of surrendering is a recreation service provider within a use period identifies that you're not going to use all of your allocated visitor use days. And as soon as you recognize that, you want to notify BLM that you have an interest to surrender your unused visitor use days. And where that's important is BLM will respond to that request based on the information. There's a form that we're using for that surrendering, and you provide BLM information that supports the reason and justification for surrendering. And BLM will look at it in two different ways. We're going to, an authorized officer will make a determination if the surrendering is within your control. So if you're just not going to use your allocated days, that may be considered as within your control. And when something has been identified as within your control, we credit that as a 1/2 visitor use day. And then conversely, where there is something that's beyond your control, such as a natural disaster or a wildfire occurs, and you're not able to perform in that area because you have no ability to, um, you provide that information through your request. And when BLM determines that that's beyond your control, you get a full day credit. And where that applies is to those 5-year evaluations where we consider um, that the highest use year over a 5-year period where you've met satisfactory performance, and we're considering the 125% use, we're looking at, you know, how were allocated days used, and were they surrendered, and if they were surrendered, when we look back, we're going to be looking for were they surrendered at a half-day tracking method or a full-day tracking method, and that applies to that percent calculation for determining what the next 5-year allocations will look like. It's semi-complicated, sorry, not sure
Hey,
if you.
Josh, if you covered this, I apologize, but is there any incentive to turn in those visitor use days, even if it's under their control versus not surrendering them and not using them? Because I think that was the nature. It's more like helping other permittees utilize those visitor use days by making them available if they aren't going to get used up.
Yeah, the incentive is, you know, where we've got allocations and there's unused days. It allows BLM the opportunity to reassign those unused days so other folks can use it. That's one incentive. The other reason for surrendering visitor use days is because you're giving BLM the opportunity and an early uh, awareness of unused visitor use days, and especially where it's beyond your control. We're looking at that as documentation that you were unable to use your full allocation, and by surrendering we have full documentation that it was beyond your control, and that's been brought into the file. And so when we're, 5 years down the road, when we're making a determination of what your next 5-year allocation is going to look like, we're looking at that as a whole day versus a half day.
Matt, do you want me to go ahead and lead off with the other questions? Read them.
Sure,
We
if you
have,
want.
we
Yep.
have a question from Jeff DeBroni. Apologize if I don't do your name justice. Josh, will Raptor or BLM have an option for businesses to initiate a permit application without establishing a contact with the local field office, or do you have to establish contact with them directly before you can submit an application? So can they just go in and submit an application if they've been through the drill before, or do they need to make a pre-contact?
Yeah, so yeah, um, anytime. So if you already have an I want to make sure I understand the question correctly, but my understanding is if there's an existing permit.
No, it's saying can they just go in and submit an application? Do they have to do a pre-app
Yeah,
request?
it starts with a pre-application consultation, and that consultation can happen over the phone, through email correspondence, or an in-person meeting. And so there's different ways to have that pre-consultation or pre-application consultation meeting.
And how does Raptor check that box that it's done so that they can go and get about the business of applying for the permit?
Yeah, it's done automatically. So the way that it works is you provide your information. It when you select where your activity is going to be, um, where your operations is going to happen, you select the area, and Raptor, it has a whole mapping mechanism for identifying the field office that your operations will apply to, and it sends you directly to that field office, to the permit administrator, and then they connect with you, set up a pre-application meeting, and then that triggers your ability to send BLM a formal application through Raptor to the permit administrator.
So what toggles that box? Does the recreation planner have to press a button more than, or do they just schedule a calendar invite? How does that box get checked?
Um, as soon as the pre-consultation meeting happens, Raptor recognized that happened because the permit administrator checked a box,
Check.
and,
Very
and
good.
then that opens up the ability to submit an application.
That's very good. Okay, hitting you with another one. Um, are there new permitting pathways under Explore Act, such as Section 316, transitional permits or categorical exclusions that could allow commercial guiding in places like Red Rock Canyon beyond the current 12 permit lottery allocation? So it sounds like they have an allocation. They want to know if there's any way that Explore Act allows getting around that allocation process. And I don't know of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know in any either, but I also want to make sure if there could be a little more information provided because I want to make sure we're differentiating an actual allocation versus a timed entry system.
I might be able to clarify here, and if I am missing the mark, Nadav, please feel free to weigh in with some additional questions. But Josh, I think the question may be related to a conversation we had recently about an example in Red Rock, where the commercial allocations for guided climbing are currently fully allocated. However, under Title III of the Explore Act, there are new Category 3 permits, the organized group recreation activity or event permits that can be issued even when commercial allocations are fully allocated, so long as the unguided public is not subject to a limited entry permit system and there's capacity available for the days or times that that use would occur. And I think the question here is whether or not those organized group permits might be available to folks in a place like Red Rock, for example, even though those commercial allocations are fully allocated.
Yeah, to fully answer this question, I would need to contact Red Rock Canyon and get some additional information on. I have a lot of information on Red Rock Canyon just because I have I'm intimately familiar with their operations as of 5 years ago. But because I've been away from Red Rock for so long, I don't have anything that may have changed. And so directly related to specific allocations, I want to check in with them. And Matt, I can provide you some additional information outside of this meeting related to that. But I do want to share where they have a timed entry system. Uh, there's as long the timed entry system does not provide a cap on the number of people that can uh, that can participate in Red Rock in a given day. Um, what the timed entry system does is there may be time periods in a day where the timed entry system is full and cannot allow someone into Red Rock. So so what I'm getting at is that the timed entry system alone is not a limiting participant system that would restrict a category, one of the permit types 5 and 7, those organized group permits to be issued at Red Rock Canyon. So the timed entry system, the way that it's established at Red Rock would not prohibit that.
What I'm seeing in this is all about the 12 permit lottery allocation and getting beyond that number. It doesn't have anything to do with the timed entry that I can see. So, another question for you. For high risk activities like climbing and backcountry skiing, are there any discussions about BLM providing oversight that permit holders employ certified guides? And so there's a couple sentences out here about, will the BLM be vetting guides and whether or not they are certified or not. So I think I know the answer, but I'll let you go with that.
The, Title III does not require that we vet permits. However, it's a historic practice when we're looking at a proposed activity. We're always looking at who's providing the activity and are you someone that has the ability to perform the activity that you've proposed to BLM? And so we're always looking for that. And some of the items that we ask for is certifications or information to help us build that permit file so that we have a full understanding of what's been proposed, who's proposing it, and how we can go about issuing that permit.
Josh, do we require that they have a business license in the state that they're operating?
Yes.
So I think our general approach is we defer to the states on whom they license to conduct business in their state. But we haven't had any discussions about the BLM establishing a review process for certified guides, whether you're certified or not. Is that true and correct, Josh?
Yep.
Great. We need some more questions here. We still have juice in the tank.
I think we've got a Raptor question here, and it is, if I am trying to renew an existing annual SRP, should it appear in the Raptor dropdown, even though we haven't received the permit through Raptor before, because the permit was issued under the old system? Would it appear in Raptor now after February 2nd, or no?
So the permit was issued outside of Raptor prior to February 2nd. Yeah, that permit will not be brought into Raptor. What will bring your permit into Raptor is whether if you ask the office to transition to a Title III permit, the office will want you to go through Raptor to make that conversion happen. And then if you choose to not reach out to BLM and just maintain your existing permit, it'll continue to be administered outside of Raptor until that conversion happens.
Thank you, Josh.
Matt, I see a couple questions in the webinar chat. Shall I take them?
Yep, great.
All right, Josh, another one for you. Can you speak to permitting in zones or areas where they have to travel through one agency's management lands to get to another agency's management lands? So would a BLM permit be required if you're just using a BLM access route to get to your activity venue?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we're working very closely with the Forest Service, and it's our understanding that the Forest Service is making a first phase transition to Title III this spring. Um, uh, and that's based on the information that they've shared with me up to the last meeting that I had with them. Um, and so we're working very closely to come up with a process to support multi-jurisdictional permitting that's in the most consistent way. And from a permit holder standpoint, that it appears that there would be, in most cases, one agency, one permit, and one permit administrator who would serve as the primary contact for that permit. That's the idea that we're trying to get to with the Forest Service. And so where there's multiple agencies involved, we because we implemented prior to the Forest Service implementing, we're waiting for Forest Service to give us their guidance for full alignment and to provide full guidance on implementation of that section where multi-jurisdictional permitting will apply. Um, but one thing that you should expect to see is where you have multiple jurisdictions from BLM to BLM office, where we've already done some work and started to establish some guidance to support as much consistency as possible with a very similar look to what I just walked through when you're working from where you're operating on multiple BLM offices across BLM jurisdictions. So more to come, and more guidance will come later this year regarding multi-jurisdictional permitting.
Hey, Matt, does Bill's question in the Q&A look like a follow-up to Josh's previous answer? So
Yeah.
we ought to try to address that. So going back to your previous answer about someone that has an existing application, will it show up in the drop down? The answer is no. The question is, so I need to treat the application as a new application versus a renewal. Could you discuss conversion and how, if everything stays the same, that it's actually not going to be just like a new application because NEPA's done and other things are done? Would you go for that?
Yeah, and as long as no, if the operations plan is staying the same and there's no changes occurring to the permit, BLM is set up to streamline the conversion process where we're going to move very quickly in Raptor. It's going to be like a ping pong game that you're going to play with BLM, where in Raptor we're going to be bouncing it back and forth just to get you through a very quick process to get Raptor to recognize the permit that you have out not aligned with Title III to get it placed into a Title III permit, but with all the same information. Very quick, very streamlined process. Where it gets a little more complicated is if you make a change to your operations prior to that conversion. And then that could slow down the process a little bit, only because there's additional boxes that BLM is going to have to check and process to go through to make sure that the permit's aligned appropriately.
Yeah, I just want to double down on that. So if you go into Raptor and just put in everything as your old permit existed, we're going to try to get that through as quickly. We want to get you on a Title III. You have these great benefits of a Title III permit, such as your fee calculations. We want to get you through that. But if you change anything, that's going to change, may change the NEPA evaluation. So think about that when you decide to just stay to your existing permit requests, activities, or if you want to tweak something. And you can have a conversation, right, about that and see whether they think it'll change the calculus or not. Isn't that right, James? Gotcha. Okay, I think there's another one over here about workers' comp. Again, it doesn't feel like it's Explore Act specific, but happy to answer it. So, does BLM require guides or guide services to have workers' comp policies in the state in which the activity occurs?
Ooh, I don't know. I
Do we even check workers' comp, or is that a state licensing issue?
yeah, BLM doesn't check workman's comp. I don't know of a situation where we've ever checked workman's comp.
Right. We defer to the states a lot on areas where they have control and responsibility for proper operation of the business. Let's see. Let's keep going. Recording. Oh, this is for you, Matt. Do you want to take the one about the recording availability? Oh, it looks like you've answered it. Okay. I think we're all caught up.
The only last one I saw that was asked is relates to the Forest Service and how they're aligned with BLM's policy changes. And are they on the general same timeline as the adoption of Raptor? I know you work with your Forest Service colleagues.
I'll take a stab at that if it's all right, Josh. So we're definitely on different timelines. We have different regulations to adhere to and different processes. So as you can see, we're moving out more quickly under interim guidance, but we all have the burden of rulemaking, which will be coming up, and you all again be made aware of when we crack open our regulations. But I think our main message is we can't speak for the Forest Service what they may or may not do with Raptor. And the big difference I see is our old permits are our old permits. We're not modifying our old permits. You as a permit holder can choose to ask for it to be converted now, or later. Whereas I believe, if I understand it right, Josh, the Forest Service is going to take their existing permits and do some tweaks to them that they can do now while they do the heavy lifting to deliver all the Title III deliverables in a longer process. Is that about right?
Yeah, yeah, that's consistent with what they've been sharing.
Gotcha. And I know they have a desire, for some type of online permitting system, but we don't have any more intel on that, do we, Josh? That's probably a ways out.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for the good questions. We're just about time here. Does anyone have any lingering questions you'd like to ask before we wrap up?
Well, we sure appreciate the venue. We appreciate your attention. We appreciate you dealing with, the normal business of switching things over. But I do believe that you're going to see things get better and better. So far, so good. The system's working, functioning, permits are getting issued. And those are good signals for me. We're just going to keep on polishing things up. I use this example with other folks. If you got any kids that play video games, or if you're like me and you're 59, you might play a video game once in a while. They push updates, right? Josh is getting updates pushed to Raptor maybe every 3 weeks or so. So you're going to see things generally get better as weeks and months go by. Thank you very much.
And I'll just add again that if folks do have questions that come up after the webinar, whether you're thinking about this tomorrow or next week, something pops to mind, feel free to reach out to me and Jason, and we'll do our best to answer your question, or we can reach back out to Josh and Kevin and get any additional information that's needed from them. So thanks everybody for being here, and huge thanks, Kevin, to you and Josh for all the work you've been doing to get this rolled out. It's really exciting to see these changes coming live, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you all. Appreciate the engagement.
You're very welcome. He's a superstar. I'm with that guy. All right, everybody, have a great evening.
Thanks all. Bye.